Okay, welcome everyone to the Freedom Church of the Poor. Sorry to be a little late today. Got a lot going on, and a lot of people here, a lot of people coming together for this special Freedom Church, which we are gathering to launch the Winter Offensive, a time of year where for the next couple months, the Freedom Church, the National Union of the Homeless, La Iglesia del Pueblo, and so many others are coming together to take action together, to take an offensive during a time when we are often told that poverty is going to be fixed by charity, or that, you know, our best solution is to go out and spend money, and that'll make things better. But we know that we got a movement going on. We got leaders in this room that are taking leadership in building a righteous answer to what we're told is going to fix things, and so the Winter Offensive is here, is starting tonight, and we are so happy to have so many folks here to help us learn more about that. And I'm going to stop talking because we're just a little flustered with the tech tonight. So we're going to get our thoughts together and start properly with a quick land recognition, and then move right into the Winter Offensive. So. Maria, would you mind kicking us off one more time?
¿Qué dijo?
María, el reconocimiento de la tierra, que ahorita no se oyó.
Buenas noches, o buenos días, o buenas tardes, donde esté. Mi nombre es María Chavalán Sud, soy maya cachiquel, soy originaria de Guatemala. Me encuentro refugiada en Iglesia Santuario actualmente todavía, luchando con el sistema que sea justo. Por este medio, pues reconocemos que estamos en tierras tomadas a los dueños anteriores, que son los nativos de este continente, que son mis ancestros. Reconocemos eso, y también estamos en esta comunidad para promover que comprometamos todos juntos de cuidarla, de protegerla y de amarla, nuestra tierra amada. Gracias.
My name is Maria Chavalan. I am Maya Cachiquel from Guatemala. I'm living in a church in Sanctuary because I'm fighting against the system of oppression. We recognize that we are in a stolen land, and as a Maya Cachiquel, we promise to take care of the land, and we ask you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Aurelis. And now, just to ground us, I think, you know what we need, maybe if we could just sing and just kind of get into step. Aurelis, what do you think? I think we need to just take a step back and get into step. Do you mind just grounding us in a quick song?
Yeah, we are getting into a step as we learn this Winter Offensive. So we're getting into a step to win our freedom. Too many years we've been divided, and now it's time to unify. We're getting into a step to win our freedom. Okay? We get into a step, we get into a step, we get into a step to win our freedom. Too many years we've been divided, and now it's time to unify. We get into a step to win our freedom. We get into a step, we get into a step, we get into a step to win our freedom. Too many years we've been divided, and now it's time to unify. We get into a step to win our freedom. We get into a step to win our freedom. We get into a step to win our freedom.
All right, thank you, Aurelis. That's better. That's much better. Okay, so just what is the winter offensive? Tani, are you ready to read our statement? I can share the screen if that's helpful.
Sure, I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right, here we go.
Okay. The winter
Um,
offensive. Okay. You ready?
Ready.
The winter offensive comes out of the historic 1986 National Union of the Homeless strategy that called for simultaneous actions among affiliates under the slogan, "Homes and jobs, not death in the streets." In collaboration with the Freedom Church of the Poor and many grassroots organizations on the front line of poverty, we welcome you to this Sunday School of Struggle. We will gather from Thanksgiving to Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday to hear from leaders from all around the country organizing and teaching toward building a mass movement to end poverty. This Christmas, we seek to break the isolation of the poor, taking our plight, fight, and insight to the rich man's house. We are mounting a winter offensive to uncover the deteriorating social, environmental, and economic conditions of our country and world. We testify that God chooses the poor and condemns the rich over and over again. In the winter offensive, we will worship together, learn together, and take action together. We are organizing to take back what is ours. We demand room at the end, housing, healthcare, and the right to farewell.
Thank you, Tani. Arelis, did you want to say anything about Iglesia's commitment to the
Yeah.
winter?
Just to say that the Iglesia del Pueblo is the sister congregation of Freedom Church of the Poor, and that we are also going to be participating in the winter offense. Along with the Freedom Church of the Poor, we denied the fact that they say that poverty cannot be eliminated, just alleviated. So the Iglesia del Pueblo, also as Freedom Church, we want to be the spiritual home of the leaders of the campaign. And we recognize that everybody has the right to live. And we say, once again, todos adentro, nadie afuera. Everybody in, nobody out. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll hear from our first reading, which is from the Bible, from the New Testament, and then we'll get to some other sacred scriptures from as we learn about the conditions that are going on in our world from Chris Caruso. So first, from the book of Mark, I'm going to put this up, and Moses, if you're ready.
Thank you, Adam. From the book of Mark. As he taught, he said, "Beware the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces, and to have the best seats in the synagogues and places of honor at the banquets. They devour widows' houses, and for the sake of appearance say long prayers. They will receive the greater condemnation." He sat down opposite the treasury and watched the crowd putting money into the treasury. Many rich people put in large sums. A poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which are worth a penny. Then he called his disciples and said to them, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing to the treasury. For all of them have contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all she had to live on."
Thank you, Moses. And so now we get to the kind of main part of the service where what we're going to try and do in the weeks to come is make sure that each week we are grounded in the reality, the material reality of what's going on, as well as take on these biblical and religious themes and stories that are so destructive to the movement we're trying to build. So we're very honored to have Dr. Chris Caruso, who many of you know, here to help us learn a little bit more about what's going on, what's looming on the horizon with the eviction crisis, which is just one piece of many crises that are surrounding us and impacting people we love every day. So we'll hear from Chris, and then after Chris, Minister Savina Martin will help reflect and ground us with a spiritual theological message. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for having me, Adam. It's great to be here. I'm just here to, testify to how important and how on time this winter offensive by the National Union of the Homeless really is, and how this is an urgent front and center issue, not just for people who are currently experiencing homelessness, but for all of us and for the soul of this nation. We know that there's not a county in our country where a person working full-time for the federal minimum wage can afford a 2-bedroom apartment. To say we have an affordable housing crisis is a great understatement, and it's accelerating at a truly mind-boggling rate. The median rent has gone up by 20% in the last year. So a $1,000 apartment 12 months ago is now a $1,200 apartment. Same with trying to buy a house. House prices have increased 20% just in the last 12 months. This is at the same time when the average median wage has not increased in 50 years. And yet we're expected to be able to somehow absorb these higher housing costs. The Supreme Court ended the Center for Disease Control's nationwide eviction moratorium at the end of August, and a further, more limited federal eviction moratorium expired on September 30th. We are now in the eviction avalanche, but it will not be televised, and it will not be discussed in the national media unless and until we force that discussion through our actions, through our writing, through our feet in the street. There is no national eviction database. There is exactly $0 federal dollars devoted to tracking the eviction crisis. Fully 1/3 of counties in the United States do not record eviction data whatsoever. And this is deliberate, right? Because they don't want people to know what's happening. We know too that for every family forced through a formal legal eviction process in the courts, there are at least 5 who have been quote unquote informally evicted, right? Whether their landlord just literally locks them out of their own apartment or turns off the utilities or otherwise makes life unbearable and force people to leave. We know that when renters go to court, that there is no help for them in the courts. The ACLU did a study and found that in landlord-tenant court, over 90% of landlords are represented by lawyers, while only 10% of renters are represented by lawyers when they go to appeal for their rights. And the results of these cases, when they've done studies of particular cities in Oklahoma and Hawaii, there were studies done showing 95% of all cases in landlord-tenant court go to the landlord. A recent study in Kansas City found that 99.7% of all cases in landlord-tenant court are decided in favor of the landlord. Right? So there is no justice in the justice system. The federal government is not coming to help. There was some limited dollars for rental assistance in one of the last bailouts, but less than a quarter of the eviction assistance has actually been distributed, and they're planning on closing the application period next month, and so even the money that was supposedly allocated to help for this process, that mostly just went to landlords anyways, 3/4 of it is lying unspent in the face of this eviction crisis. This is when, by our best guess, there's an outfit at Princeton University called the Eviction Lab that tries to estimate, based on very limited data, what's actually happening. According to their count, 585,000 people were forced into eviction during this pandemic, despite the moratoriums. And that their estimate is 7,682 people were evicted just last week. But again, we're not seeing that in the headlines. According to the Census Bureau, there's over 8.4 million families who are behind on rent right now. And according to the Urban Institute, last month, 2.6 million renter households are in danger of imminent eviction without further aid. The President Biden could, with a stroke of a pen, declare an eviction moratorium. A similar one during the Great Depression was upheld by the Supreme Court in 1934. It's within his power to do. He has not done so. He will not do so unless there's massive pressure from the ground up to dramatize this problem, to show what's actually happening that's currently being swept under the rug by the government, by the media, and by the courts. And that's why we see homeless people organizing themselves, right? Those with the most to lose. Those people who are currently experiencing these conditions are taking leadership to not only dramatize these problems, but to offer solutions to these problems, right? That we are living in one of the richest and most productive countries in human history, that there are more empty housing units than there are homeless people right now, that the means are at hand to solve this problem. This is not an irresolvable problem. The means are at hand to solve this problem. The political will is lacking. The only way to build and establish that political will is by building social movements from the bottom up. And that's exactly what the National Union of the Homeless is doing here with this winter offensive. And I'm here to support them and applaud them and pledge to continue that support, because I think that they are the leaders that our country desperately needs right now in these very challenging times. So that's my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. That's the Facebook chat is very excited with all of that you shared, and I think, like you said, it's something that we don't hear, and that we're relying on our leaders to raise up, and that's a big part of what the Winter Offensive is. And the other piece I think you see from the scripture, the world that they're describing, that Jesus is describing, is much different than the one we encounter today and that they encountered then. And to help us understand that contradiction, Minister Savina Martin is going to share a bit on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so good being here. Wow. Just breathe that in for a moment. The material conditions of us organizing. Just breathe it in for a minute. King said, "The poor and dispossessed of this nation live in a cruel and unjust society. They must organize a revolution against the injustice, not against the lives of the persons who are their fellow citizens, but against the structures through which the society is refusing to take means which have been called for and which at hand to lift the load of poverty." We are witnessing a breaking down of the structural foundation of capitalist economy society into two antagonistic classes, which are an enemy of the other. We have nothing to lose. We must organize, organize, organize. As taught, Jesus said, watch out for the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and have the most important seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses. Today, we are moral witnesses to big tech and pharma corporations and rich developers who come into our communities, dealing opioid pain pills and gentrifying our neighborhoods with overpriced housing, right on the streets where we grew up on. We are now subject to growing permanent unemployment and underemployment. And what has been placed is a structural death sentence on the plight of the poor today. In other words, the newly impoverished masses are being placed in an economic and social position where we have to raise our fist against a system that could care less about the lives of the poor. This new structural position is constituting the poor and dispossessed as a new social force, or as, again, Dr. King once defined, as the potentially powerful new and unsettling force. As Chris was mentioning, it is the National Union of the Homeless, along with all of our affiliates, that must organize, organize, organize. This is the 35th year since the National Union of the Homeless launched this winter offensive entitled Homes and Jobs, Not Death in the Streets. We called for simultaneous actions across the country along with our affiliates, and this year is the inaugural year of the Winter Offensive, partnered throughout the nation with our state unions, National Welfare Rights, the Poor People's Campaign, and many front leaders that are here tonight on our platform, veterans, Freedom Church, Pyro Center, Poor People's Campaign, Freedom Shul of the Poor, Pennsylvania National Union of the Homeless, Put People First, Atlanta Union of the Homeless, New York State Union of the Homeless, Chicago Gary, California, Texas, and Glacier del Pueblo, housing tenants unions, organizations, artists, cultural workers, filmmakers, faith leaders, and teachers, and the poor who are organizing the poor to end poverty. We, the poor, the unhoused, the bottom, are on board. We're on board too. We may appear backward, disorganized, disheveled, and greasy, but we are here. Poor people everywhere are struggling to survive and live throughout their own winter offensive. If we have a home or an apartment, we are on the offensive fighting for the infrastructure of our homes to keep going. Clean water, heat to stay warm, gas to cook, and lights to see. We are struggling to communicate through the internet deserts in our rural communities and food deserts in our urban communities. Today, we are taking action right now to reclaim and take back what is ours, to unite across lines of division, and to speak our truth on this platform called Freedom Church of the Poor. We have 11 weeks of Sunday School of Struggle, where you will hear songs, music, teaching, preaching, and offering up our sacred bodies on the line to build a mass movement to mobilize and organize into Washington, D.C. in June of 2022. We, the poor, the unhoused, the houseless, the widow and orphan, will approach the city gates and offer up out of our poverty our 2 cents like the widow, to demand that a change is necessary for us to live, that we may be homeless, but we are not helpless, that we know that in the richest country in the world, that the signs should not bear no room at the inn. So we will make our own room. We will continue to build encampments without fear of being arrested. As long as there is no housing for us, there shall be no peace. As long as the poor have to freeze on a cold winter's night or die in a tenement fire, there will be no peace. As long as the poor and dispossessed have to fight for bread, peace, and land, we shall build power, organizing against the system that view us as human industrial waste. There shall be action to organize, action to mobilize, action to study, and demand an end to criminalizing the poor, an end to incarcerating the poor. This state system, clothed in their robes and fine linen, have neglected to provide for the poor, to secure our common defense, to promote the general welfare. And that today, we are declaring homeless unions and all of our affiliates are banding together. We are rising. And lastly, let today mark Winter Offensive Day across this nation. We are only organized to take back what is ours. And we will march down to the rich man's house and declare and decree that you don't have another day to take our money, to take our food, to take our homes and steal our children. Enough is enough. No housing, no peace. No housing, no peace. Organize, educate, teach and study. Stay with us, build with us, and pray with us. Amen and amen.
Thank you, Minister Sabina. Amen. I love that. Winter Offensive Day today. Amazing. So we're also lucky to have Matt and Tammy from Put People First PA and also from the Pennsylvania Union of the Homeless here. And I know you all are getting ready for this season as well. And just want to invite you first to reflect or respond anything that's coming up as we kick off this winter offensive.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, figuring out audio. Thanks. My name is Matthew Rosing. I'm with Put People First PA, the political education team with that. I'm also a member of the National Union of the Homeless, the executive board. I've been sitting here listening to everything that's been said and looking at the winter offensive and really wanting to put back truth into this movement and truth into what has been going on on the streets. I'm going to share a short story with you. I was in prison for 9 years, and I saw a man Christmas Eve beaten to death by the COs. There was a fight, things escalated, he was beaten to death. It was Christmas Eve. They took him out in a shopping cart, in a laundry cart, wheeled him up to medical, brought him back. I heard he was dead. I was one of the only people in the jail that was allowed to clean up what they called bios. That's blood, anything like that. I got paid a little bit more. And on Christmas Eve, I'm sitting there cleaning this man's blood off the ground, and I'm trying to comprehend and focus on how could there be a loving God and a loving essence in the world that would allow something like this on Christmas Eve to have, happen. But then, it was one of those weird experiences where everything changed in me, where this man's story needed to be told. These people's stories need to be told. They're not, how many die in silence and no one ever knows the real reasons behind what has happened. So I know for me, something very dear to my heart is going to be with the winter offensive, the vigil on the 21st here at the Capitol steps in Harrisburg. I really want to show that these lawmakers' off-the-cuff decisions are causing people's lives. And I really want them to understand that. So I'm going to pass it to Tammy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, honestly, I've been holding back tears just from listening to everything that has been shared so far, and so fitting with what Matt just shared, because I know people in power know what's going to happen. and they're not doing anything about it, right? Like we just heard that. And what I do see them doing is like organizing. New prisons are being built, right? In Pennsylvania, our state government gave $108 million that was meant for rental assistance to the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, right? And Lancaster County, a new larger prison is being built. Why they closed the hospital. And I feel like they know. And so like they are gearing. And then there's also been park ordinances that have been happening, all that kind of stuff too. Like, it's like they are gearing up to further criminalize us and imprison us and take our freedom away. And so like with this winter offensive, like it's a matter of like bringing this truth and power to the people and be like, we've got to come together and unite and organize. Because if we don't get ready now and come together, like that is exactly what's going to happen, because that is what they're preparing to do. That's our reality if we don't get organized now. And like this Tuesday in Philadelphia, ACT UP and the Homeless Union are going to be doing a camp out and teach-in overnight outside City Hall. And so that action is going to be going on too as part of the winter offensive. And there's other events being planned too, because like we're gearing up because we know what's going to happen. We know it, we feel it. And listening to what Chris Caruso shared, right? Like it's now. Yeah. I'll stop.
Thank you both for your testimony and for your leadership. These are the kind of stories I think that have to be told and heard, and the kind of action that has to be taken so that so that we can build the movement we need to unsettle this society. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Matt, so much. Are there any other thoughts or comments, anything on people's hearts or minds? Just have a few minutes here. See some comments in the chat.
Yes, it sounds like we have some updates on Tuesday. I think Nijmi had put something in the chat. And thank you for being here, Nijmi. Would you like to tell us all about what's happening on Tuesday? That's exciting.
I was just saying that along with what Matt and Tammy were saying, announcing the action on Tuesday night, we're going to go right from there to the Moral Witness Wednesday at Senator Casey's office in Philadelphia. So we'll be camping out in City Hall for the winter offensive, and then the following morning marching over to Senator Casey's house office to keep the pressure up on the Build Back Better Act. So, yep.
Fantastic.
Great. Thank you, Nijmi. I mean, we have a lot of weeks ahead of us, and I think these actions are going to just keep building. And the Freedom Church La Iglesia is always open every week for us to come together and be in community to reflect and learn. And as Sabina so I think accurately put it, it's the Sunday school of struggle. So, and especially on these first Sundays, we mark that with a ritual of communion. And Arelis has been working on a communion ritual. So we're going to take a few minutes and just do that to kind of ground ourselves and remember why, the world we're trying to build together and how we care for each other and love each other. Are you ready, Arelis?
Yes. Wow. Yes, indeed. There is many troubles in the land. We're going to get it right again. There's many troubles in the land. We gonna get it right again. There's many troubles in the land. We gonna get it right again. There's many troubles in the land. We gonna get it right again. We gonna get it right again. With that hope and determination, today we come to this table of fellowship, the table of freedom and liberation, with the hope and determination that poverty can be ended, not just alleviated. With the hope and determination that every homeless person can be housed, that those who are hungry can be fed. We testify that poverty is not caused by moral failure on the part of the poor, but by policy and social structure. We come to the table seeking a strength to expose the deteriorating social, environmental, and economic condition of our country and the world.
This is the table of remembrance. We remember that God chooses the poor and condemns the rich over and over again. We remember that the stories that Jesus' friends tell, stories of bread broken and shared, feeding a multitude, stories of being gathered, enemy and friend, outcast and marginalized, together around tables.
And they said that it was on a night of both celebration and betrayal that Jesus took and shared the bread left over on the table. Leftover. And today we recognize that leftover for many around the world is perhaps the only food that they will have. We ask God to give us bread that doesn't belong to us because it's God, bread to share, bread that becomes blessed when it reaches each person, when it satisfies hunger and solitude, when it's not hardened or hidden.
But do not give us only bread. Give us also the dignity that we are denied in this world, where walls and wars and greed and ambition is neoliberalism and fundamentalism, exclude, marginalize, condemn, expel, and kill us.
Give us tables of God. Give us tables of God, tables where we can meet to celebrate our humanity and diversity. Give us the ability to embrace and love kindly, and look kindly. Give us outstretching hands and sensitive hearts and commitment to the fullness of life.
They also say that he took the cup left over on the table, poured out and sharing, remembering with them. The life-giving breath, even now, pounding a rhythm through our veins. The breath of life from where we come, the breath that precedes and follows all that we can see.
Give us words that encourage, action that include, gestures that bring hope, songs that draw mornings of fresh bread that is tender and just, and of glasses overflowing with the wine of equity and justice. However you have chosen to partake this evening, you are invited to recommit to the struggle with friends and currents across the country and the world who will hold out hope and continue the work of liberation. Let's take and eat. Cristo, Cristo Jesús, identifícate con nosotros. Señor, Señor, mi Dios, identifícate con nosotros. Cristo, Cristo Jesús, solidarízate, no con la clase opresora que oprime y devora la comunidad, sino con el oprimido, con el pueblo mío sediento de paz. By sharing this humble meal on this fellowship table of remembrance, we commit ourselves to one another, to unity in a struggle, to overturn system of oppression, and chart a new path forward. We commit to join the Poor People's Campaign Jubilee platform, demanding, among other things, housing for all, the end of homelessness, the vacant unit be turned into affordable housing, and the end to eviction, an increase in rental assistance. We commit ourselves to create a world of justice and peace where everyone needs are met. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lorelis. Thank you, Anna. Beautiful. We're almost done. Just had a couple of things. As folks, know we don't get a lot of victories in this work, but when we do, we have to lift them up. And this past week, we had an amazing victory here in New York. The taxi workers came together, and they were, well, actually, since September, we're out in front of City Hall, camped out with making demands for protection against predatory loans on their medallions, and they won. They ended the last week week or two with a hunger strike, and so we just want to, a lot of folks from the Freedom Church and from PPC were down there supporting, and it was an amazing victory, and we have to just celebrate that as we can. And we got this short statement from the taxi workers that we want to share. I'm going to read it briefly. Okay. So, to the members and leaders of the Poor People's Campaign in New York City, what fed us during 46 days of 24/7 protest and 15 days of hunger strike was the solidarity. New Yorkers, those like the PPC that brought delegations from their organizations to our protest camp, in particular lifted up our determination to win, knowing that we had you at our side in this fight. We had many visitors, but only a couple brought songs to sing with us. With this debt relief victory, we have proved that immigrant working class New Yorkers are not disposable, that we can organize, fight, and win what was once considered unwinnable. We hope that this victory further emboldens us all to keep on fighting and winning in solidarity, the New York Taxi Workers Alliance. So happy to have that and to share that and to deepen our relationships with the taxi workers here. A couple more quick announcements. The collection tonight will be for the National Union of the Homeless. You can go to their Facebook page, I think, and find the link. Also, I didn't mention at the beginning of the hour, make this a little bigger for everyone. We're going to be joined by Avery from Vermont Workers Center, but he, a good friend of his, is dying, and he had to go and visit him. And this is a link. You can look up Larry Gordon online at Caring Bridge if you'd like to make a donation to his friend, who I don't think has much time left. So our prayers and thoughts for Larry and for Avery and for all of the family there. Of course, as every week, sign up for Freedom Church. I can drop this in the chat, and would love to stay in touch. Oops. Next week, the Winter Offensive marches on. We'll be back here, same time, November 14th. The theme of the week is new and unsettling force. We're going to be lifting up the actions in Pennsylvania and whatever else happens, and of course, taking on that battle of the Bible every week. So please come back. Everyone is always welcome at the Freedom Church. And then next week, La Iglesia will continue at its regular time at 7:30, right after Freedom Church. And every week at 6 p.m., you can join us for Bible study. Reach out to us if you need more information. And then a lot happening on the Poor People's Campaign front. Monday, tomorrow, there's a community forum in West Virginia, 2 p.m., both in West Virginia and online. If you can make it there in person, awesome. If not, just join online and spread the word. This is part of a final push to get the Build Back Better plan through. I mean, we know it's not everything, but we has some things in there that can help. And we are capable of organizing and building on those victories. We have powerful leaders, so we're pushing as hard as we can. Like Nijmi mentioned, on Wednesday, states are going to go into action across the country. PPC states are going to be holding Moral Witness Wednesdays around noon on November 10th. And so you can also join those online or in person. And then the following Monday, there is tentatively a scheduled action in DC for the final push. That week will be the vote we're thinking. And so more details will follow soon on that. And then, of course, the big action, I think we're going to have to just remind ourselves every week, all of this should be directed at us all coming together in a very big way, June 18th. We're anticipating so many people to come together because we have to show, our power. And so I think we just have to tell ourselves every week that that's happening and start doing everything we can. Think about all the actions that we're holding and how they can contribute to us coming together and showing that power in the summer of next year and of course far beyond. But so that's it for this week. Are there anything else folks have that they want to share in terms of announcements? Oh, I'm so sorry. We have an amazing song to share as we're closing out. And a quick note on that, stay with us for 1 more minute, 2 more minutes. 12 years ago, when John and Colleen were here in New York as students, we had a relationship with taxi workers. They were fighting then, before there was Uber and anything else. And we were, John created a song as a part of that. So he'll say more about it, but I just want to share that as we leave and remember that victory and kind of go out with that. And then when that's over, Moses, maybe you could just say a word and we're out of here. Okay. Where is it? Here it is.
Hey, Freedom Church family. This is John Wessel McCoy calling in from Phoenix, Arizona. Wanted to offer up thanks and gratitude and congratulations to the New York City Taxi Workers Alliance. And just as a way to honor and mark their victory, I'm going to share a song that I wrote. It was at an organizer gathering in Philadelphia with their comrades down in the Unified Taxi Workers Alliance. I wrote this about 12 years ago and thought I'd dust it off, but I wrote it in honor of the struggle the taxi drivers organizing, and so it's called Taxi Driver Sweatshops on Wheels. So here we go. Listen up, all you taxi drivers in New York City, driving your cabs all over town, working night and day. All those taxi drivers, we're gonna take a stand, gonna fight this ugly system, gonna do everything we can. Taxi drivers, it's time to organize. We're stronger when we join together, together we've got to fight. Taxi, taxi drivers, we drive sweatshops on wheels. Sick of making this chicken change. Tell me, drivers, how you feel. Driving our cabs 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. No benefits, no workers' comp, and very little pay. Asian, black, Latino, white, we gotta stand with each other. Unite across our differences, y'all my sisters and brothers. Taxi, taxi drivers, it's time to organize. We're stronger when we join together. Together we gotta fight. Taxi, taxi drivers, we drive sweatshops on wheels. Sick of making this chicken change. Tell me, drivers, how you feel. Taxi, taxi drivers, it's time to organize. We're stronger when we join together. Together we've got to fight. Taxi, taxi drivers, drive sweatshops on wheels. Sick of making this chicken change. Tell me, drivers, how you feel. Sick of making this chicken change. Tell me, drivers, how you feel. Hey, Freedom Church family, this is John.
All right, and so I think I'm closing it off tonight, which is always makes me nervous. But I thought today I was thinking about what to kind of close things off with, and I thought that I would actually share something from the most recent article of the journal from the University of the Poor. And so I couldn't sleep this morning, and I was like up at 3 a.m. and I was like tossing and turning, and I was thinking about like how much we have to build and like our upcoming statewide meeting and what we have to figure out, how many emails I have to send, which I sent one at like 6 in the morning if you got it, because I forgot to send it earlier. And I'm just making like this laundry list of all the stuff I had to do. And I think a big reason why is just because you know, I just had all this anxiety, and I've been bugged this whole week because, you know, someone said something to me, and I think it's a critique that we hear all the time, which is that the demands of the Poor People's Campaign and the National Union of the Homeless are too great and too ambitious and too big. And instead of asking for all this stuff, we should be focusing on small problems. And, you know, that's all we can do. And, you know, this thought that we have to let go of our expectations that poverty can be abolished, and instead we have to think that it can only be alleviated. And so I've been really stressed thinking about, you know, all the ways that we have to build to fight all these narratives and these ideas and these thoughts. But this morning, I finally started reading the University of the Poor's latest journal, and I wanted to actually read this section from Sarah Weintraub's entry, where she was reflecting on her leadership and her time with the Vermont Workers Center. So this is from Sarah. We know, as the old slogan of the National Union of the Homeless says, that we only get what we are organized to take. At this moment in history, our class overall is very disorganized. What we are organized to take essentially amounts to crumbs. We have to realize that we can't actually win anything until we win everything. I mean this literally. Anything we can win can be taken away at any time until we have actually won power over wealth and resources of the world and reshaped how they are organized and distributed. Winning something at this point, even something that feels as huge as universal health care, only matters as much that we can use that victory to build leaders and the kind of organization that can someday allow us to force, as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once put, a fundamental redistribution of political and economic power in this country. End quote. And so, well, I'm sure we all have mornings like I did today where we're anxious and worried about how much we have to do and how much we have to build. For me, at least lately, these moments of anxiousness have been starting to be followed by gratitude for what we have already built, and also just this fire to continue building what we need to do. Earlier this week, I gathered for a weekly class with leaders across the country. And while doing the reading for the class, I just like couldn't stop crying. And at first it was like out of anxiety, but then it was just out of like excitement and of what we were building, and just looking at all that we've built with the Poor People's Campaign and the National Union of the Homeless. And I just couldn't stop feeling such a deep gratitude for all the leaders and the lessons and the all that we've learned from the victories and our shortcomings. And I look at the ways in which we're already beginning to shift the narrative. And I look at the ways that we'll continue to do that. And I look at the ways that we're building power. And on Friday afternoon, I messaged so many people about how grateful I was for them. I had to like stop because it was getting out of hand. But you know, this morning after reading Sarah's article, I watched Takeover as the sun came up, and I drank my morning coffee, and I read the first email exchange I ever had with Kristen Colangelo, as I do every couple months, to think about how much our relationship has evolved. And I reached out to Minister Savina to thank her for her leadership, and I organized political education for Tuesday, because I know that we won't just build the power and shift the narrative. I know that we will also win. So thank you all for coming tonight. God bless you all. I love every single person here, and I hope you have a great week.
Thanks, Moses. Thank y'all. See you next week.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Oh.